with Jacob. What is your surname? How to say it?
Gadikian.
Gadikian.
Yeah.
Wow, where it comes from? What's the background of this?
It's Armenian.
All right, but you're American.
I'm American. That's right. My ancestors came to the States about 1917 or so.
Yeah. And now you're in Hanoi.
That's right.
And how did you end up there? Like, if you don't mind sharing this.
Okay. Yeah, totally. It's look, this is a serious entropy situation. What happened was that, so I've lived in Hanoi before and got some friends here, and one of them is a real estate investor. And he had a lot of ideas around, specifically putting real estate on blockchain systems. So I came out here to do that. And actually that failed. And that failure led into another project that I'm pursuing now called Dig that sort of patches that failure. I've looked into blockchain real estate in the US and in Asia, and the real issue each time is regulatory, because real estate is just so local, right? You can't really do it at a global scale because every place has their own regulations in place, and often for very good reason. Not always, but often. And so anyhow, I was supposed to be here for a month. Came out here with my wife and kid, and that was January 2020. That would be, when COVID showed its head in our world.
The Vietnam did quite well. I remember because I used to live in Hong Kong. I'm going back soon, so nice. I remember the Vietnam for like 6 months or so was doing like amazing. You had like regular life, no cases, no nothing. So it was like probably the best place to be there at this time, because I remember I followed the region, what's happening around there, and everyone was curious. Oh, why Vietnam doesn't have the cases? What's going on? But then it ended up, and it wasn't so perfect anymore.
So, if we were to compare to the United States, Vietnam's always done really well, COVID-wise. And, the way that happened is every in and out to the country was shut. It honestly worked out in our favor. Like, and speaking of, my family situation, we did not need to deal with COVID restrictions for the vast majority of the time that was going on. And, when we did, well, I have to say it was probably successful. What I mean by that is I still to this day don't know anybody firsthand that has had COVID in Vietnam, though friends of friends have down in the Ho Chi Minh City area.
Yeah, I totally get this, because when I talk to many people, it's like, oh, why Asia doesn't get so many cases, but Western world like Europe and United States has. And I think what people missing out, the culture is very different. So probably when you come to Vietnam, you noticed that the approach to like masking and all of this stuff is quite different. It's quite collective. Maybe it's not as extreme as Hong Kong, but for example, when the pandemic started in January, like Hong Kong was all masked, and it looked quite strange. So there's quite, and the testing is wider. So I think that the handling such an outbreaks, is on different levels in Asia. That's from my experience. I'm not sure if that's the case with Vietnam, because I didn't see Vietnam, but I know Asia in general is quite not necessarily, they don't necessarily do lockdowns, but it's like people collectively I think are quite protective of each other.
So actually, we had a hell of a lockdown this summer. It was quite interesting. Probably unlike most Cosmos validators, we run all of our own infrastructure, and I always talked about having a secret laboratory, and interestingly, a big test of like running your own infrastructure versus putting it in the cloud occurred this summer. I couldn't access that place for 2 months. I was working from my apartment across town. I just, even though it went well, and I could be like, oh, that's because we're so great. I mean, really, I feel very lucky that worked out. We did, prepare different backups and stuff. The fact of the matter is, the machine had 81 days of uptime until, the end of COVID. So, we did great with that.
Yeah. Probably we should go more into the blockchain because
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
so like I will stick to Vietnam a little bit, because a few months ago, actually not a few months ago, but for a while, when it comes to China is banning the crypto, and as we know, China is the communist system.
Mm-hmm.
And so Vietnam is socialist system. So I'm quite curious. You staying in Vietnam, and I see a lot of projects is being developed in Vietnam regardless blockchain. So is there any problems from the Vietnamese government? Because I feel like despite Vietnam being like socialist, it's quite more like way more international than China. So I wonder if anything like this, any problems from the government side that they're like, hey, we don't like it, or not the case.
No, I would say, and I should say that I've actually given talks at the National Economics University on the topic of like using proof of stake blockchains for transparent private-public partnerships that are somewhat aligned with the economic modeling and stuff they're looking for. And the reaction has been one of interest. I can't say that the Vietnamese government, should be qualified as like blockchain enthusiasts, but there's definite interest in the application of these technologies here, and a lot of care has been taken, at least this is my understanding of it, to ensure that experimentation is relatively safe. They have a thing called the FinTech Sandbox. We and some of our clients are applying for that. And basically what this FinTech Sandbox does is it allows for you to experiment quite freely, provided that you're routinely checking in. I see this stuff traveling kind of in two directions. So if you look at Dig, I think that Dig will actually end up having some contact with different governments worldwide, which is pretty amazing. We've actually had inbound interest. And if you think about that, if you look at, say, the history of these technologies, to have inbound interest from countries on a fully permissionless, decentralized blockchain project is, I feel honored, and it's kind of mind-blowing. And it seems like the model that we're pursuing with that, where there is a global scale blockchain, that global scale blockchain is only used to coordinate local projects, like that's working. I'm really, really excited about that. And that's a project that we're developing on behalf of a client. And of course, participating in the technical design of it and figuring out exactly how to ensure that it complies very strictly with the regulations of any locality in which it exists. We're taking this attitude of like, real estate may sort of be a special case. The regulations there, and I'm not a fan of regulations, period. But like, if you look at municipal regulations concerning safety, if you look at all of the different regulations that are placed on real estate, you can actually see is that it may be somewhat unique in that I think that at least some of the regulations are very well placed. So what we created is a system that is able to coordinate fundraising, build out of real estate, things like that. And because it's going to consist of chains that never leave their locality. For example, suppose you have the imaginary nation of Islandistan, right? Well, if you wanted to pursue real estate development in that imaginary nation, you would actually confine all of the nodes of that chain to that nation so that, it would comply with the rules and regulations at play in that space. There's crypto cruise ship, basically taking the same model and applying it to a cruise ship. The interesting second order effect of the structure that we're pursuing with DIG, which, I think is really one of the huge benefits of working with the Cosmos SDK, is compartmentalization. It would be crazy to say that this crypto cruise ship idea is low risk. It's not. It's high risk, and could work out really, really well. You could have a space for people working in crypto to go and kind of get away for a little bit and pursue new ideas. It could also not work out, but it's completely insulated from the rest of the DIG network. And each of these local chains will be.
Can I ask you, Jacob, because you mainly work with in the Cosmos ecosystem, right? Like most of the projects that you do is mostly from the Cosmos ecosystem. So I want to know a little bit more of your background. So the first time, like very basic, right? So like not in non-complicated way. When was the first time that you ever heard of the blockchain technology? When the first time you got involved, I'm not saying as the developer, but for example, when you bought your first token, and then how did you ended up in the Cosmos ecosystem? Like, what I mean by that did the Cosmos choose you, that you saw some working opportunity in the Cosmos, or it was actually you that you were like, hey, I like it. I like this blockchain. I like to work with the Cosmos SDK. I want to build my own blockchains, whatever. So how did it happen?
Okay. So that's really interesting. All right. I bought my first coins toward the end of 2013. And at that time I was working as a history teacher.
Okay. Was it Bitcoin? I guess it was.
Well, okay, check it out. I bought Bitcoin so that I could buy shitcoins. I invested in MadeSafe. I invested in a wide array of shitcoin gambling, right? And vast majority of that didn't work out. The Bitcoin most certainly did. And if you're curious which one, MadeSafe coin. And by the way, still holding, still supporting, waiting.
I never even heard of this.
A very bold project. What's that?
I never even heard of that. Yeah, like
okay,
crazy. From that time, because I'm thinking 2013, what was it like? There was around Bitcoin, Litecoin. There was Namecoin, right? There was Namecoin that vanished, but it was a very ambitious thing. Yeah, but like most of that I haven't heard, because back in 2013, I only heard of the crypto as this currency, because everyone was talking that's the currency, right? And it was hitting $1,000 back then. So all I knew is this magical internet money that hits 1,000, but I never got deep at that time. The deeper I got into blockchain was quite a few years later in 2017. So that's why I might be missing a little bit from that time. Okay. But yeah,
well, I can tell you that my progression was probably similar. Now, purchasing crypto for the first time, it changed me. Okay. I was exposed to all these new ideas, and the MadeSafe community, look, the project has not shipped. Okay. You can almost say that at this point it's famous vaporware, but whatever. A lot of very creative people in that community, and a lot of passion around the idea of basically ensuring that the internet is locked open, can't be censored. Those ideas affected me. Reading the Bitcoin white paper affected me. And I guess to be a little bit inspecific, catching the vibe affected me. And by the end of that school year, I decided to quit my job, move down to Shenzhen. And in Shenzhen for about 8 months, I pursued different aspects of open hardware. What I actually learned was that there are IP encumbrances at like every layer of the technology stack, and that open hardware was in fact vastly harder than open software because even the machines used to make the devices and there's IP at every layer.
Can I ask you? Can I stop you because that's quite a long way from the being history teacher. Like, have you ever to this point have you ever had the developer background? Like, did you know any programming, or you were just teacher and later on you learned, or like just quickly? I'm just curious.
Okay, so check it out. I didn't write a lot of code, but I was always a Linux and open source enthusiast. So I'd be like that guy who'd be like, "Don't run Windows. Oh my God, why are you running Windows?" You know, and I was that high school teacher, like Linux on the laptop, and I'll always be incompatible with everything, you know. So that gave me a bit of a development background, and I was always an enthusiast building my own computers, stuff like that. But if you're asking if I was a programmer, the answer to that is pretty much a hard no. I knew like basic HTML, basic Bash, but I wasn't a coder. Everything that I know how to do, I've learned since about 2014. Some of the hardware stuff I brought knowledge into, like I knew that previously. And I was always very like, open source just kind of made sense to me. In that, like, I guess I kind of picked up the zealotry really fast, right? That, well, for one thing, I carry the strong opinion that intellectual property is pretty much morally bankrupt. I mean, if we look at COVID vaccines or other medical patents, I can't see how the IP practices actually help anyone. The IP stuff does not stop people from making profits. Or sorry, if there was no enforceable IP on medical stuff, guess what? People would find a way to make money from medical stuff anyhow. There's vast demand for healthcare, everything and anything. And this is just one example of why I think intellectual property regulations are kind of being used to capture an ever-growing portion of, dare I say, society in a pretty harmful way. So,
sorry, can I stop you? That's really interesting.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm at two things. I like to speculate on crypto, and I like to invest into biotech. Biotech. So, and I was really engaged in the production of the vaccine, and I was speculating a lot on the companies. And you probably heard that there was the proposed IP waiver to produce the vaccines, you know, and many vaccine companies said that doesn't make sense, but some especially poorer countries were saying that makes sense. And I was actually on the side of the maybe protecting the IP, because, for example, I give you a company called Novavax. They just getting approved in some other countries. They were like strong opponents because depending on the vaccine technology, sometimes the waiver of the vaccine doesn't solve of the issues like distribution and especially purity of the vaccine. So, for example, Novavax had always the issues despite having all of the backing and stuff like this to achieve the purity over 90%. So to make sure that 90% of the vaccine, and the claim was that even though if the IP is waived, it doesn't mean they will be able to make more vaccines because the supply chain, like they got everything. So the others, if they want to make it, they can't do it anyway. And also they don't have technology to make sure that the purity of the, sorry for giving the example of the vaccine, that
no, it's
will
a really
be
good example.
Very difficult to have the pure vaccine. But so that's the one stance, and the other stance was I followed the guy that is called Josiah Zeiner. He's called biohacker. He has PhD, and actually, when the COVID started, he made the DNA vaccine in his kitchen, and he injected himself with it, and they developed antibodies. And 1 year later,
Please. Okay. What he did?
yes,
what? That's amazing.
He created in his kitchen the DNA vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And him and his employees, he's actually very censored. You would like the guy. And he sell a lot of the biohacking equipment, but he also experiment, and they did the DNA vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have any approved DNA vaccine right now, but it was literally months after the COVID started. And they did it, they tested it on themselves. A few weeks later, they detected antibodies. We don't know how protective it was, but it was fine. It wasn't probably perfect vaccine, but they did it. 1 year later, the Indian company announced they getting the first approved or they submit for the first approved DNA vaccine, but he's like, hey, it's not the first, I made it a year ago. So from one stance, we have like, I'm giving this to you because from one stance, we have the companies claiming like you can't do it because it's difficult. But here is the guy in his kitchen saying, hey, if we maybe would have not the freer approach to it, we could make way more vaccines, right? And
that's my belief.
Distribute way faster. So that was just my take.
And have more choice in the variety.
Yeah.
So like healthcare is a really, really good example of IP restrictions being net harmful. Look, as long as, or let's use Coca-Cola, right? I have no problem with them having a secret formula, none. If they maintain that secret, they have their special taste, they don't actually need additional patent or copyright protection on that. Now, that doesn't mean people should be able to go out and sell, Coca-Cola with a matching label and look like exactly like the Coca-Cola company's product. That's probably bad, okay? Because then it's not Coca-Cola the way that the Coca-Cola people want it. But the fact of the matter is, even absent regulation, you're going to have people selling
the regulation in
Pepsi.
Yeah.
But like, so what I'm saying is, the regulation doesn't actually do anything other than ensure that incumbents can capture outsized profits, and we see this over and over and over again, even with the John Deere tractor stuff, right? So I don't know if you know, but John Deere is using the Digital Millennium Copyright Act to prevent people from repairing their tractors. John Deere is an American tractor company. They make big green tractors that are, I think, of high quality, except they don't allow people to repair them anymore, so they're probably shit. And governments should not be assisting this. It's really quite bad. It's changing the notion of ownership. And so you were asking, like, how did I pick all this stuff up so quickly? Well, I was very zealous on open source causes for a very long time. When I was in high school, I think 98 or 99, I wrote papers on the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. My father was webmaster at a university in Buffalo, and one of his students, later employees, was really, really into Linux, got him into it, got myself into it, and that kind of got me going. And initially, my focus wasn't really on the technology. I can't say that I understood it super well, although I did learn how to use it, right? Because there's that difference between being a user and a developer. But like, I really, really got that philosophy. I think open licensing is the right way to advance things. And how do we know this? What's our confirmation? Linux is everywhere. I'm surrounded in Linux devices as we speak. your life is full of Linux, whether you know it or not. You use it probably thousands of times a day. And I mean, anyone, any person, because your Apple mobile phone, it's not running Linux. But guess what? It makes HTTP requests to Linux servers thousands of times a day, most likely. To me, that's really strong confirmation that the licensing model allowed it to spread, mature, and become incredibly high quality quickly. So one of the things that we're doing at Notional is we are working very hard to make open hardware validators, which is going to be a progressive thing. So semiconductor IP is encumbered. In fact, semiconductor engineers are insanely encumbered. I had the opportunity through Tendermint Inc. and Jaye Kwon to do about 8 months really intense research on this. And I mean, the finding was like, it is theoretically possible to do this and incredibly, incredibly hard. So even when I was a part of that organization, we had to scale back plans to make it an accomplishable task. And you know, they're extremely well resourced, and not only are they extremely well resourced, but they know lots of extremely well resourced people. So that should be a little indication of the level of challenge there.
Because you already mentioned Jaye Kwon, for those who don't know it, he doesn't get probably enough credit, but he's the initial founder of Tendermint and we can say Cosmos, I guess. So like, okay, from the first time buying the coins to the getting to the Cosmos and meeting Jaye Kwon, when did you meet Jaye Kwon, and how did you start it? And tell me, like, why the hell Cosmos? Why didn't you go to, I don't know, develop on Ethereum, which is different, right? Because but let's say people like to compare, why not Polkadot, right? Like
right.
But we will get to it. But like, yeah, like how you get started with Cosmos?
Yeah. All right. So actually, I worked on Steam for some time in 2016, and that is what drew me into Cosmos. Steam is, I guess, the second application-specific blockchain, with, in my opinion, BitShares being the first. And even years ago, there were some signs that Graphene Consensus by Dan Larimer, look, that thing is amazingly fast. I still work on it today. And now, you know, over the years, I've gotten to really appreciate some of its truly excellent features. The speed is unbelievable. Also, the quality of implementation is very high. The trouble is the consensus mechanism is prone to takeover when used in a proof of stake context. You can attack Graphene blockchains. That has occurred. And I don't think that there's an easy solution using that kind of consensus mechanism. Now, with that as a lead-in, okay, I discovered and became aware of some issues in Steam, and was pretty shocking.
It was very popular in 2017. They had the Steemit, right? The forum and stuff like this.
Correct.
Yeah,
I
remember.
It was 2016 that I got involved, actually.
Yeah, so I was a little bit earlier, but Steam for sure was trending, and now basically vanished. I think no, not vanished. They rebranded,
exactly
right?
Vanished.
They
rebranded. A bunch of weird stuff occurred, and
but they rebranded, right?
Branded.
It's different. The rebranded Steam is the different name now. No.
Yeah. So okay, check it out. It was crazy. It was crazy. It involved actual on-chain theft. Steam did not rebrand. It was sold to Justin Sun, okay, or Justin Sun's organization. I do believe it was sold to the Tron Foundation. Now you can't sell a blockchain. Yeah. You can't, right? But you can sell a significant stake in early tokens, right? And so that's what happened. And At that time, there were a whole bunch of Steam witnesses who didn't like that. And they banded together and formed this thing called Hive. And then DOS nuking occurred, okay? So Justin Sun, and my understanding is he wanted to make some changes to how Steam operated and kind of pushed them through by attacking consensus. Now, it's a social attack, okay? Not really a technical attack, but point being, if you have very significant stake, you can kind of force changes to consensus in Graphene. And you can do that in Tendermint too, but it's maybe more structured. And of course, I shouldn't say Tendermint because the proof of stake layer lives in the Cosmos SDK. Tendermint is pure consensus. And
I want to ask,
so that split occurred.
Sorry, is that Tendermint the first one who introduced proof of stake, right? Sorry, like
No,
this.
Tendermint
Okay.
is not. Actually, it's kind of interesting. I've been quite lucky to work with a lot of the key individuals who helped to develop the notion of proof of stake. And I'll go ahead and I'll name four. So there's of course Sonny King, who truly, I would say, the originator of the idea that you can secure a decentralized system by the value of assets issued in that decentralized system, aka proof of stake, in PureCoin. Okay, and then I also had the opportunity to work with Pure Chemist, who is the current maintainer of the PureCoin project, and both of them have incredible thoughts on proof of stake, how it should be applied, how it should be implemented. And I should say that PureCoin's proof of stake is quite different from what came after. The next major iteration in proof of stake, in my opinion, is Dan Larimer's Graphene consensus, BitShares, Steam, etc. And that introduced delegation. And when it did, in my opinion, it also did introduce some security issues. Now, that should not be seen as taking away from the accomplishment in any way, shape, or form. In the past, I have made misguided statements concerning Graphene consensus, and at this point, I now operate a chain that uses Graphene consensus, and quite frankly, what I can see now, which I couldn't see then, okay, is that like any consensus model, it has clear strengths and weaknesses, and Tendermint has those as well, okay? Like Graphene is 100 times faster than Tendermint in many places, 100 times.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I will want to talk about it.
Okay.
You know, because but we'll get to it.
Sure.
What I wanted
So
to
bring you through there, okay? So I met Dan Larimer and his set of people. After that, I met Jay and his set of people, and he.
What year was it? What year?
That was 2016. And Jay gets personal credit for me coming into Cosmos, because what happened is at that time there was no thing called Cosmos. Okay, there was Tendermint, and Tendermint was this consensus mechanism with like a set of demos, and that set of demos let me, a former high school teacher who was maybe throwing a hell of a lot of effort into learning about different blockchain stuff, right? As at that time, maybe just learning and learning and learning and learning. And I was able to build a chain with Tendermint. And that's an incredibly empowering experience. And then I took that chain and I spread it out over nodes. And look, that chain did almost nothing. That wasn't the point, though. You know, I had made it. It was mine. And during that time, I was on the early Tendermint Slack, which was totally public. Link and join it. And I started talking with Jay. And his ideas are strong. I think really the core one that it was critical. And I've got to say that the others, other people who worked on Cosmos early on also, by backing this, made an incredibly difficult decision. Because it's not the quickest route to make money building a set of independent systems that anybody can use without a tax or any sort of payment to any sort of mothership. That is not how you moon fast, okay? The Polkadot model is how you moon fast.
Yeah. I was
there's dependencies for a reason.
Sorry to stop you, but like I hold Cosmos. Sorry, Atoms. They're my biggest part of portfolio now, but I'm well aware of this because the Jaye Kwon idea, like what was building, was like so radical because it really doesn't capture value at all. It just doesn't.
Yes.
So the question is like, why would anyone make it? But now, as everything comes together, you actually see it. And I think there is still a lot of things to do. But for a long time was like, this is basically the volunteer job he did. Like, because you can use it, you can build on this, and they don't ask anything back, while everyone is praising the Polkadot. Sorry, quick question. Who is the bigger brainer, Jaye Kwon or Gavin Wood? Gavin Wood is the founder of Polkadot.
I've never met Gavin.
I
couldn't say. I've met and worked with Jay, and obviously he's an absolutely incredible mind. Additionally, I want to throw in that there's at least a dozen people, both inside and outside of Tendermint the company, including some people from Informal, Interchain Gamba, and that brave decision was not Jay's alone. In fact, if other people had not backed him up on that one critical point, it would not be what it is today.
Yeah, I guess Ethan Buchman probably was there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So him, but shipping a product like Cosmos is, you don't do it as one or two people, right? There's, if you were to look around at say,
I don't know who's this though. From Polkadot. Okay.
Me too, and that's what makes it very interesting.
Okay, it's from Polkadot.
From Polkadot. Okay, got
it. I don't know much about Polkadot, to be honest.
Neither do I. Well, I learned it this year. I wanted to do some comparative research, and what I really found is that parachains they lack meaningful independence. If there's a problem on Polkadot or Kusama, your parachains are not going to operate. In Cosmos, truly, IBC connected chains are 100% independent of each other. What do I mean by that? Well, if one completely fails, another will be completely fine. It may, for example, we take out Osmosis, gone, right? I love Osmosis. I don't want to take it out. I don't want to see it explode.
I like it too. I do liquidity pooling and I love it. It's smooth. It works beautiful.
I agree entirely. But suppose that we nuke it, right? And right now it's the largest zone for IBC transfers and everything else. Well, guess what? All the others would continue operating fine. And that was, one, that's a brilliant technical design. Two, that's a brilliant economic design. And three, it's a repeatable pattern. That's actually how we got to the model that we're going to pursue with DIG, was more or less replicating some of the stuff. And Ethan, if you happen to see this, thank you for all the writing on local currencies over the years, because that's where we're trucking. So Ethan, I'll give you a little background. I don't know if you know this, is quite a fan of like local area currency independence.
Yeah, I watch so many things, and he's always localism, localism, localism. All I hear from him is localism.
Yeah. And if things go well, if we continue to be lucky, Dig will be an implementation of some of his ideas. And that's another thing. Like, Cosmos has been fed by a lot of ideas, and more interesting, right? So, like, check this out. So then Jay becomes, shall we say, malcontent, and I was there for that. Obviously, that caused stress and chaos and discord. Then what comes of that? Well, now he's working on this thing, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, I will want to talk about this. I will want to talk about this for sure.
We the Virgo thing, maybe that didn't go super good, but I'm still working on Virgo ideas, and I'm still benefiting from like the R&D funding that Tendermint, the company, basically gave me personally, giving me free license to go and learn as much as I could about actually building out this open hardware stuff. And I suppose, this cellular model, because Jay's now, he's been working, if you look at the GNOME repository, working to make that compatible with mainline IBC, get it into Cosmos as a contract standard. I like CW. I worked on Juno.
I just want to stop you here because people might not know that the GNOME is so Jaye Kwon, the founder of Cosmos, Tendermint. He's not associated with it, but he's still built on Cosmos, and he has this project called GNOME. I hope we can actually learn about this a little bit more, because I checked your GitHub and I know you're a contributor there as well.
Yeah.
So despite the Jaye Kwon not being the part of the Tendermint, but he's still building in Cosmos, and I guess he believes strong in Cosmos. That's his product, and I think he believes in the idea of Cosmos a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I completely agree with that, and I know for a fact that all that was a very hard time for him personally. He had big, let's say, maybe technological and philosophical differences with others who, interestingly, I myself respect very much. Like, this is a community of incredibly smart and opinionated people. And I've been placed in a lucky position of kind of, yes, I understand exactly where Jay is coming from on pursuing maybe a more pure open source approach. I understand exactly where he's coming from on pursuing solutions in pure Go. GNOLang it's kind of a fork of Go that Jay first suggested in 2018.
So let me ask you. So GNO is programming language, right?
Yeah.
Which is forked from the programming language Go, right?
Yep,
and
that's right.
I guess it has some differences, but I simply don't know why would he create the new programming language? Like, what for? Like, who's gonna? Because I believe, I don't know if there will be smart contract platform. If he does this, who's gonna build on that? Because it's new language.
All right? So check it out. One, I most certainly will. And two, I think that a lot of other people familiar with the strong points of Go will also build on it. And there are a lot of people, especially in the infrastructure community, familiar with the strong points of Go. I've got to guess that somebody is going to reapply Jay's concept in Rust. So right now, let's talk outside of Ethereum for a second, okay? In Ethereum, we have Solidity. We write contracts in Solidity. Let's put it to the side. Now, the other contract solutions typically look like code written in Rust, but then compiled to WASM, WebAssembly, okay? Which is not itself Rust. Now you have an interpreter layer. And again, I mentioned that I feel really lucky to have worked with a lot of really brilliant minds in proof of stake. Well, the key insight to me was when we were putting Juno together and I was looking at CosmWasm, I was simultaneously contributing to the build system on a product that Dan Larimer's that I'm not sure it will ever ship. It's called Clarion, and it was not a cryptocurrency, but instead like a communications network. And it also had WASM baked in, and where it got very interesting. Everything WASM is based on involves a C library called WASI, okay, W-A-S-I. And that, we could say that that's quite pure, right? But then, suppose that you're building like CosmWasm, right? Which, mind you, I think is really cool. I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna develop on it. I'm gonna play with it. I'm gonna learn it. But there are more layers, ready? WASI, Wasmer, your Cosmos application written in Go. C, Rust, Go. All of those interfacing with each other when, quite frankly, even integrating C and Go, which Go was designed to do very well and probably does better than most languages. Anytime you use that feature called CGO, you pay various performance and complexity costs, okay? So let's now step over to why GNO. Why would you ever do something so ridiculous?
Yeah,
right?
that's crazy idea for me. Like, because I know, yeah, I follow his Twitter. I know he's quite radical. I know he's quite special.
Yeah.
And that's actually someone that would be so crazy to build his own language. That's,
So the idea for GNO, I believe, originated around 2018 when they were designing the system of handlers and keepers that keeps Cosmos SDK modules secure and keeps them from affecting like the chain overall. So the storage and security model. And basically what they did is they implemented what are called object capabilities. And these OCAPs allow you to assign, specific pieces of code, very specific privileges, and nothing more. The implementation was and is hacky. Okay, so if you were to go into the Cosmos SDK, you would notice a number of things. One, that like, hey, wait, we're using a multi-threaded language, but where are the Go routines? Like, what happened? Well, in a blockchain system, every node at every block there's actually in Tendermint, there are several hashes that must match at each block, or you lose determinism, the thing literally explodes. It's kind of fun. The explosions, they're fun to watch, but they're not fun like in a system that's holding value, right? So the Cosmos SDK is not idiomatic Go. It's not traditional Golang at all, because Go is designed for the heavy use of multi-core processors. There are the early talks about Golang, explain this in great detail. Now, okay, next step, GNOlang. Why? Well, Go is super ergonomic, okay? Former high school history teacher, definitely better than mid-level at Go now. And that's definitely an intentional design feature. I think that a lot of time and effort went into making Go a language that like, you can learn Go, you can do it, and that's big. It's also pretty performant. It is not as like memory light as say like C or C++ with the boost libs, and Dan Larimer's Graphene stuff, that's C++ with boost libs. And the performance is wow, right? But at the same time, I myself have difficulty maintaining Blurt. That's the chain we built with Dan Stack. And basically, we had to hire for that because it's a whole nother level of difficulty programming with that set of tooling. And with Go, everything is a struct. Okay, everything has a certain sense of order to it. And I find that although Go does do automated memory management, right? You don't need to manually collect garbage in Go. It's still pretty fast. The situations where it's not as fast are those that, okay, I'm hitting the garbage collector, things like that. Rust fixes this, but I don't know if you've ever looked at Rust code. It is full of symbols, and for me, quite frankly, very difficult to read. Also introduces some genuinely new concepts.
But you also do work with Rust.
Mm-hmm.
I believe you do work with Rust because I saw you are a contributor at Juno. So I guess, and it's in Rust, right? So
I'll tell you, Juno is
I do my research.
Juno is in Go, and Juno
okay.
could be used as a really good illustration of why Golang, like if you were to push toward a concept, right? Why it may be a really good idea. So Juno is written in Go almost entirely, but Juno's contract features are written in Rust. And it gets a little crazier though. That Rust code relies on some C called WASI, W-A-S-I, okay? And then you write the actual contracts in Rust. So what you have is a Go application that can handle contracts written in Rust, compiled to WebAssembly, do their interpretation and stuff through a library that's written in Rust but depends on C. It is a lot of interfacing. Now, when I say, oh, it's a lot of interfacing, I'm not saying, oh, it's crap, otherwise I wouldn't have done anything with Juno at all, right? In fact, writing one of these contracts in CosmWasm is much easier than writing a Cosmos SDK module. So, if we were to go back to Jaye and why GNO, well, initially, GNO will be a smart contract language. At least this is my understanding of the current plan. So,
how many of you is contributing? Sorry, no.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Jaye, you.
Jaye. Okay.
Oh,
I have. No, that's quite all right. So right now it's really Jaye. He's looking for people to help with writing tests, but he wants it to be exactly a certain way. Okay. So my contributions to GNO at this point amount to, I think, a couple of changes to the README file. I did write a make file. Okay, that's what helps it to compile. And I am working on the tests, but it is very low level stuff. I am a former history teacher. And let's say maybe I do it as more of a challenge, right? Something that I do so that I can learn more, because he's certainly a person that I want to learn from.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind if we answer some of the questions, because some people just quickly?
I'd love that. I would love that. Absolutely.
So some of them are with competing blockchains. So for example, Neutral Position was asking if Avalanche consensus will beat Tendermint. I don't understand much of an Avalanche because I know it's smart contract platform, but also it offers this interoperability, does they? Similar to Cosmos. From what I checked, they are faster. So I wonder what's your opinion. I guess it's just asking about the opinion. If you.
Hey, okay, so check it out. Dr. Emmon, hi. I've met him as well in Buffalo, New York at our blockchain meetups. And another person I consider myself quite lucky to know. I've read the Avalanche paper several times. And sir, to answer your question, I should probably put up a validator on that network because I don't feel like I truly know enough about the operation to answer your question well. Supposedly, okay, let me tell you my understanding of Avalanche. Yes, that's right. Let me tell you, like, my understanding of Avalanche is that it offers full determinism at higher speed than Tendermint, but I have not played with it enough to really know how that goes. And there's two things at play here, though. And one, I guess, I would criticize, and maybe this is why I haven't played a lot with Avalanche. When you want to make an independent chain in Avalanche, it's still using AVAX for its fees. It's therefore not independent. And that's always going to drive me into Cosmos, because in Cosmos, we can take more risk. End of story. The network is insulated from failure. So,
correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I think the major advantage of Cosmos, because I was trying to think, and it's this independence, which at first sight would see like as the not good thing because it doesn't capture the value. But I was thinking, if you're an institution, right? Let's say you are, I don't know, Japanese government, right? And you want to build your own blockchain for, I don't know, stable currency, or like, stable coin currency. So I was thinking, would they choose the ecosystem that doesn't give the independence, and they, as the government, have to rely on the other institution, or would they choose Cosmos, where they can operate independent? So I was thinking, if the countries will start adapting the blockchain, let's say big organizations, I'm pretty sure they will want to be independent. So that was my take on the Cosmos. Even it doesn't capture the value, it can capture the institutions and people. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I have hard evidence that's the case, so I can really say about it. But yeah, like, that's the case. And you know what? If I were to stay all generic on it, right? I guess I can speak to it. So yes, they are interested, and yes, that's because of the sovereignty. And you know, why can't I speak about it? Well, I don't know if any of this stuff will actually happen. It would be a couple of world firsts, and yeah, I very much would like to see all these things occur. So, if any fans are viewing, you know, happy to work on that. But yeah, so a couple of groups that are really well served by the Cosmos model are governments, both national, local, also large industries, because it's quite interesting. Say you're a group of 40 very large companies. Well, you can construct one of these chains. Each one of these companies can operate a validator, and you've got a consortium. A good example of this would be Clayton, which actually is not Cosmos. It's the only successful application of a JP Morgan product called Quorum. Basically a private, not private, semi-private Ethereum implementation serving Korea's Jaebulls, their version of like a Zaibatsu, right? Tremendously successful. I met some of the founding team when I visited Korea in 2019, and it was a very powerful set of ideas that they're working with, in my opinion. Those ideas are really easily applied to the Cosmos model.
I wonder, because there is a lot of pressure on the speed, right? I think Solana is taking many hearts because they claim 80,000 transactions per second, and Cosmos is very fast, but it's not the fastest. Apparently, Avalanche is faster. So, and I'm pretty sure there will be much more. much more blockchains that will be way faster than Cosmos. So I wonder, is it really important? Is it really important if the blockchain will appear and they will be like, hey, we do 1,000,000 transactions per second. The block speed is the fraction of the second. Finality is the blink of the eye, right? Does it really matter?
Yes.
Or it actually, and then if it matters, how the Cosmos can compete? Is Cosmos the upgradable in this
Two
matter,
answers.
or it always be
One,
10,000? Yeah.
so it is upgradable, and huge credit to the team at Informal Systems for pursuing almost entirely independently a formal verification of Tendermint consensus and get it, Informal Systems formal verification. And on top of that, formal verification for the IBC protocol, and on top of that, a re-implementation of both Tendermint consensus and the Cosmos SDK in Rust, the first fruits of which are visible as the Hermes relayer software, which, hey, what can I say? It's really reliable, excellent. It is not the only piece of relayer software that I use. Well, hey, Carl, give it a shot, man. Especially if you are technical or marketing minded or have a good blockchain concept. We're expanding at incredible speed in Cosmos. And that's actually, so at Notional Labs, we relay currently 18 of the 20 IBC enabled chains. Soon that'll be 20. And we're going to put our hats in the ring to validate all of them as well. And we would like our experience and organizational knowledge to be ecosystemic. We also are really, really enthusiastic about recent efforts to extend the IBC protocol to the Polkadot ecosystem. If I personally am a maximalist on anything, it's IBC. Why? Well, because of IBC, when we change value in Cosmos, we do not go through exchanges. And when I say we, I mean the global community of decentralized nutters who are building this stuff or operating this stuff, right? Because the validators are decentralized nutters too, I assure you. That's all you interact with, okay? You do not go through Binance. You do not go through Coinbase. You are moving seamlessly through cryptographic transactions. And that's an incredible thing. I'm very enthusiastic about the at least 2 efforts that I'm aware of to bring Bitcoin into IBC, not by changing Bitcoin, but instead by creating interoperability layers. And yeah, Cosmos is the place. IBC is why it's the place. The multi-organizational architecture has enabled, look, Informal is doing amazing stuff. Tendermint is doing amazing stuff. Interchain Gamba is doing amazing stuff. So you have all these large, I call them mothership orgs, right? The Interchain Foundation, like Billy's recent work on the Cosmos Hub directly is incredible. I think that it has improved the clarity of that software repository a great deal. And now this doesn't mean that everybody or all of these teams are perfect or that there won't be problems. What it means is that the network of organizations and people and ideas is resilient to problems. Look, like our Linus Torvalds, right? Our Linus Torvalds, Jaye Kwon, If there is an equivalent in the ecosystem, I believe it's him. Gone. Okay. And the software development continues all over the place.
Yeah,
and is increasing
I
in
want to add
pace.
here because maybe not actually many people are aware, but kind of the team, the Cosmos, it actually broke out at some point. I don't want to get into the details what happened because we keep talking about this, but I don't think people are aware of this. What happens with
I mean, it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, and the very interesting thing, and that made me like more bullish than ever, right? Everyone they went their own ways, and they continue building, and out of this, the Cosmos ecosystem is better than ever. Like it doesn't mean if there are disagreements, it can break out. But I think the philosophy and the idea of Cosmos is keep going, and you can't stop it because it's not related to the one idea. Because if someone disagree, you break it, and it continues going, and it's growing as well, right? So the proof is, look, there are disagreements, and it doesn't mean we have to agree, and maybe we will go, partial ways, but it's fine because it happens because you cannot agree on everything.
Yeah, totally. And it's interestingly, the protocol. Look, I did not know IBC, the protocol, all that well until maybe 8 or 12 months ago. And the fact of the matter is, it's designed for this mechanism of operation. So what do I mean by that? Like, if we look around at all these teams that have formed up after the so-called great organizational restructuring, basically a bunch of people left Tendermint. In fact, around the time that I became involved at that company. Well, what's occurred since then? And yeah, like, I mean, if you were to go online and Google Cosmos related press from around the time of the great organizational restructuring, it was like, oh my God, they're screwed. The project is over. This isn't going to work. And why did it work? I think I can tell you, I think it was the design. And look, a lot of these people, this includes Jay, probably includes me, hell, can be pains in the asses at times. And I guess what I'm thinking of, like the people who insisted very heavily at all times, and I'm not naming names, and I hope those of you who appreciate that, and those of you who wish I named your name, please know that I'm imagining your name right now, who pushed really hard to, despite the fact that this protocol would not capture value really ever. It's not designed for the capture of value. It's designed for the creation of value. It's designed as a very powerful creative tool, in my opinion. Despite that, continued to build it even when it looked all crazy. Okay. And I'm talking about, like, coming in and restructuring, gosh, you should have seen some of the stuff that I believe was quite necessary to, like, get Gaia shipped, for example. It was a ton of really difficult engineering work. And yeah, I'm pretty much assigning credit all around because it actually got shipped and it seems to work as intended. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Can I ask you, because you said something, you said capturing value, it's not designed to capture value, but most of the people seems they want to speculate on the value, and my question is, because I want to, right? And the IBC, the idea is the Internet of Blockchains, right? Some claim from the Cosmos ecosystem that there will be millions of blockchains. Some say, look, Cosmos is not the competitor because we believe that the Ethereum is the future, which would be so many finance guys, right? And And my question is,
Wait, I have to stop you real quick. The sommelier guys do not think Ethereum's the future.
because I read on the
They
page. I read
so
on the
I know them.
page.
Okay, I
Yeah.
know Zaki, I know Jack,
Yeah.
and I know some of the others on their team, but maybe less well. Okay, what they've done there, first of all, it's absolutely brilliant. Okay, what they did is they used the Tendermint Cosmos consensus and the different interoperability tools that have been used over the years to solve a really tough Ethereum problem. And here's the thing, like I not really downing Avalanche. I'd like to see Avalanche support IBC. I'm not really downing Polkadot. I'd like to see Polkadot support IBC. I, helped to set up a now somewhat large Bitcoin mining operation. I love Bitcoin. Bitcoin is awesome. Bitcoin is like, concentrated freedom power fueled by gigawatts and gigawatts and gigawatts of electricity. It's amazing. And so I see Cosmos as kind of plumbing, as glue. And I can tell you that Sommelier is another piece of that plumbing. One thing that they're not saying, and I just have to correct you on, is that like ETH is the one true future. Instead, and this is very interesting if you ask me, what the Sommelier guys did, they figured out how to create a blockchain that creates value on another blockchain completely independently. So what it's doing is, Sommelier constantly monitoring Uniswap and figuring out the right positions for people to be in. And I really should play with it a hell of a lot more. I had a call with Tariq about it and Cosmos in general. It was just really fascinating. And I think it's a really good example of the wide applicability of the set of tools that is Cosmos in terms of like, you've got Tendermint consensus, you've got the Cosmos SDK, you've got the Gravity Bridge. You have all these different things that make many disparate systems finally talk. So like somebody commented, I'm selling all my Avalanche. Well, I'm not certain that would be a good idea. It may go up dramatically in value. Same thing with Polkadot. Same thing with Ethereum. ETH 2.0 has now adopted like a full finality consensus model.
How about Atom?
Atom. Oh, check it out. So, all right. Would you like me to speak to like Atom and value accrual and why that's such a big question? Yeah, I'd love to.
Mm. Yeah, like, but I want to finish this. So we have the IBC, right? Like, so you said maybe Avalanche will appreciate in value, Polkadot. Let's add Bitcoin. Let's get Ethereum, everything, right? And then you have also Atom and IBC. So the question is, if we will have these millions of blockchains, where the value will be captured, where the biggest value is it Ethereum, is it Avalanche, is it Atom? Like, is it maybe some smart contract platform that that will be existing in the Cosmos ecosystem, like Juno, like Secret, like whatever? Where will be the most value captured?
Wrong word. It's where's the most value created. And in my opinion, that's the IBC protocol. That's the ability to set up independent chains. And I'm going to shill my personal position, okay? My personal belief concerning, okay, where and how does Atom take its place? Like, honestly, like, look, that's just massively valuable. You got to consider that it does not have any clear model for value capture. That's a $10 billion, $11 billion blockchain right now as we speak. It does not have a business model. And in my opinion, that is part of why it does so well. I was a massive proponent of the Gravity DEX And I may have been wrong, actually. Like, it's interesting because this model, this architecture, is very forgiving to mistakes.
I was sorry. I was waiting for like gravity decks. Oh, it brings so much value. It brings so much value. We still can't use it, but we can use osmosis, right? And it's like I forgot about the gravity decks. My mind is already somewhere else. I think the guys are a little bit late at the Turner Mint. That's just opinion. With this, some people were like, hey, instead of I saw some arguments of Twitter, hey, instead of focusing on this so much, why you don't focus on the shared security now? Maybe that would capture more value. I see you don't agree on that.
No, it's actually like this. It's true.
Yeah.
It's genuinely like
Yeah.
Shared security is a whole new set of challenges, right?
Mhm.
You need to think about your infrastructure operation in a different way. If you're a Cosmos Hub validator, you're going to need to think about your entire hardware software setup differently, and then they'll need to be different. You'll probably need multiple machines. Those machines, may need high-speed network interfaces to other machines. And I took the current shared security demo and I forked it on GitHub. I broke it into 2 chains. I launched the 2 chains. I connected those 2 chains with Hermes. That's where I hit a bug. I think it's not maybe a bug. I might have actually just needed to do a governance transaction and ran out of time. Here's the point. Shared security, I question its value when we have IBC, but I'm not saying it's worthless. Right now, it is too difficult to set up a new chain. And yes, the problem is validators. And yes, shared security might be a solution to that. And yes, there may be other solutions to that. And yes, we should pursue both.
Yeah, I mean, the question is like how to bring more value to the Atom token, right? And I think that's what people are trying to figure out.
I'm so sorry. I do kind of go on to tangents from time to time. There we go.
Mhm.
The way to do that is for the Cosmos Hub to triple down on governance and become the investor of the Cosmos ecosystem. Jack Zampolin was talking about some plans for this. I don't know the specific nature of his plans, so I'm going to speak to what I've been promoting inside Tendermint, the company, since I began there, and outside in the Tendermint community. I think that the Cosmos Hub will deliver unbounded value to holders of the Atom token if it invests in ecosystem projects directly for profit. Okay. Whether that means like Atom holders are earning airdrops or there's some shared security distribution mechanism, or, okay, let me summarize by saying somewhat passively, whatever, okay? Point being, if governance is used akin to the way that, say, the board of a venture capital firm works, to back the most promising, riskiest projects in the ecosystem, because let's face it, the low risk projects can easily get funded, then that token does not have a value accrual limit because it will be creating new value. I'm not really into value capture. Why capture it when you can create it?
Yeah, like I really like the stuff which happens really this year, like started this year, the airdrops, which is really amazing because as you said, creating the value, which is the new projects, and you can do it via staking the Atom tokens, and that's in itself, it incentivizes you to actually stake it because you want to have airdrops, which I didn't get the airdrop. I didn't get airdrop of Osmosis, and I didn't get airdrop of Juno. just because of my own stupidity, ignorance, not thinking of the future, right? Because I'm like, yeah, hold atom, like, what you mean, like in the wallet, like it's the staking, like but now I make sure I compound regularly all the time atoms. I stake it and with this, it will be capturing value through the creation of the value, because already it's like few more airdrops announced. Like every week now, I see they announce the airdrop on Atom, right? But here is the other question that I would have, because I was thinking to myself, look, if we do with the airdrops all the time, will it not create the bigger and bigger centralization of the whole ecosystem? As we go with the airdrops will be distributed to the largest atom holders, which will become automatically the largest holders of the new created project, which will be creating massive divide in the let's say value created, which could be translated to the wealth created, right? Is it the perfect system to go with this way, or not, as I think?
Check this out. So there are no rules in the land of airdrops. None. Okay? Meaning, if you wanted to, and I assure you we are doing and have open sourced the tooling to do this with, so github.com/notionallabs/C17, if you wanted to orchestrate an airdrop that landed primarily on a BSC contract, but like, you throw in some ions and you throw in an airdrop on Blurt and anything else you'd like. Oh, and by the way, if you're using the typical HD path in Cosmos, you can make address conversions, you can mutate the addresses. What I mean is, it's actually pretty flexible. You can construct whatever you'd like to with airdrops. And in addition to that, there are no rules, right? So I think it's fairly likely that we're also going to see projects blending together, like, potentially constituting the community as a token, say potentially on Juno and CW, and then like walking toward being a chain. Yeah, I mean, not only do I think that that's happening, I'm going to help make it happen, and I want it to happen. And so I guess the answer to your question is no, because with airdrops, you can get all crazy and recursive if you want to. You can go nuts. There are no rules about giving stuff away, and the second that there are, we're all screwed. Really. Like, the second that practice has legal challenges, then that is a very serious societal problem. Because an airdrop is you're giving stuff away. Okay, so if our speech as people, as software developers, as whatever, is encumbered to that level, then we need to really start thinking about, what's next. I hate to be a little dramatic there, but like, I don't know if you've seen recent US legislation. Recent, what do I mean by recent? Well, it would make doing what I do a felony. I don't do anything unethical. And to the people who just co-sponsored that bill, we're coming for you. Okay, we will get you out of Congress because we do nothing wrong. They'd like to make that a felony. Okay, a felony in the United States, allow me to explain, there's like two classes of crimes, okay? Misdemeanors are like, you shouldn't do that, right? Nah, felony, like, screw you, you should go to jail for doing that. And folks, nobody's perfect. I'm not a felon. That's for fucking sure. And Yeah, I guess I did express a little disgust there, and I am disgusted because in screw Cosmos for a second, okay? Let's talk about cryptocurrency. Let's talk about all this stuff we've collectively been doing for years and why it's gaining such traction. Why is Bitcoin valuable? Why does anybody care about any of this stuff? And the answer is we've created this system of systems, imperfect, built by, men and women, and we do stuff imperfectly, where full transparency is possible. It's almost like the end game of open source, or open source applied to the economy, or to give Alessio huge credit, open source plus. He kind of coined that term of like, well, when you're funding open source work with, a project that has a token, open source plus. And hey, now we've solved the decades-long challenge of what the hell is the business model to open source anyway. I'll put the tweet in the comment to the YouTube video because I don't want this to be taken out of context. I want people to know exactly what I'm talking about. It's very serious, and guess what? This stuff is political. It always has been. We have created, like if you look at Bitcoin, right? It's a full transparent economy with full histories. There is no way that anybody can tell me and be right that Bitcoin is better suited to money laundering than HSBC. Okay, that's bullshit. And they're lying.
I think for those who are not aware, HSBC was continuously accused of money laundering, like a value of billions of dollars, notoriously for the drug cartels. I think around probably 7 years ago, there was massive case. I think for those who are not aware, because HSBC, 70% of its operation come from China, and also for the gray area, there is often used something that is called shadow banking. So not the major banks, but the shadow banking, what it is initially is the small banks that behind which is, let's say, HSBC, which is like, so actually when something gets is spooky, some criminal areas that are funded by the shadow banking, more certainly we can be sure that is actually someone like HSBC doing this. So it's so
that is not possible with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, and that is not, look, if you go through IBC transactions, you can see every single one of them. And it's not actually retail individuals who are the biggest pushers for privacy. No, it's, large corporations and such. And guess what? Everybody has really good reasons for privacy. And what needs to stop happening is this dual class treatment of individuals and large businesses. Because guess what? If I laundered billions of dollars for drug cartels, like HSBC did, I don't really believe in drug regulations, so I can't say that it would be rightful.
Yeah.
But like, under current law, right, under accepted law, I would be sent to jail. HSBC did that, and I see none of their executives in jail. They paid a fine. But I'm sure that there are individuals in that organization who knew exactly what they were doing. I think that the releases on that made it extremely clear. And these decentralized systems, they're operated by individuals, but those individuals are treated very differently. And that's morally wrong, okay? And I do take issue with that.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to, in the comments to this video, include information about that. And I think that I should probably run, but if there's one more topic or question or anything anybody wants to ask, super happy to
Yeah,
throw in one
it
more
seems
thing.
everyone was like listening you quietly. Someone like let's loosen up a little bit, because I'm sure you
Yeah.
had the conversation. Someone was talking in the comments, which is common question. It's probably invalid in these times anymore. But maybe you had conversation with someone, let's say Jaye Kwon, who
Mhm.
who is Satoshi? Like, this was the question, which is
Ah!
invalid
Oh
question.
my God. Oh my
No one
God.
cares, I think.
No. Check it out. Check it out. Listen, all I can say about that, and I have guesses, but they're not even worth speaking. Okay. It's like, look at high performance C++. Look at that. There are styles. But look, that tells us exactly nothing. And that's that. Okay. But like, Bitcoin is really weird software. Really, really weird software. Look at the way that the halving is implemented. You did what? Like, I wrote an article on this, like the way that Bitcoin does division to do it's very C++. You could only do this in C++. You could only do this if you're an incredible expert in C++. Also, in 1996, on October 31st, the National Security Agency released a paper called How to Make a Mint. You should read it. Does that tell us who Satoshi is? I have no idea. Does the paper contain and mirror some concepts in Bitcoin? Absolutely. Is October 31st an important date in Bitcoin? Yes. Can't say for sure.
That's really cool, Inte. I should probably cut this out and put as the separate, like, as the question people like to ask, who the hell Satoshi is. And I think that's the great answer. What really impressed me, like, because not necessarily the question, but the legend of this, how is it possible to the individual or group of individuals to actually not come out despite the massive success? That's like, because I believe we all are kind of ego-centered people. Let's give example of Elon Musk, who liked to flash with his personality, but there you have the person who created probably something more impactful than the Tesla, and it's just vanished. And that's the most beautiful thing I ever seen, because if we read the book one day, I think the Satoshi name will be actually bigger than the Elon Musk, just because of the legend that people created, but no one really knew what the hell was that. This is like the magic trick, that someone performed the magic trick and no one knows who the hell did this. Who, like, that's for me what's really cool about Satoshi.
I mean, I like look. There are obvious candidates as to who Satoshi Nakamoto is. I will definitely say I do believe it's more than one person, and I'll also say that. I mean, that's just such a unique code style. Like, read it, even if you don't know C++, right? You're like, read Bitcoin and compare it to other stuff written in C++. You'd be left going like, why in the hell is going on there? Why did they do that? It's really unusual. Then, and let me just like take the whole legendary Satoshi thing like just a few steps further, right? So we have to consider that this individual or individuals, I have no idea who the hell it is. Again, I have guesses, but they're vague, and I wouldn't even bother speaking them. They executed flawlessly. Forget the anonymity for a second. Although I do suspect that that's a key piece of the success of Bitcoin is money, is the founder or author's anonymity. But if we forget that for a second, then we're still left with the fact that they absolutely mastered game theory and created a piece of technology that encourages the development of really critical technology. Look, I mentioned briefly that I was involved in the mining industry through drone energy. And what drone energy does is they assist in the conversion of entire power plants to Bitcoin mines. And, weird paradox here, okay? I consider Bitcoin mining to be just about the greenest industry out there. You're never going to build a Bitcoin mine where it's harmful. Let me walk you through this. A Bitcoin mine requires vast quantity of ASIC semiconductors. Now you can call that waste, but it's actually securing this base level money that it may create a shot at like having monetary systems that are not backed by militaries. And guys, the military is far more expensive than anything in the world. And I don't speak only of the United States, but all of the militaries. We have militaries so that we can secure our economies, but Bitcoin is doing this with just electricity. I prefer that strongly.
When we had this, I will have actually a question to you because listening to Jaye Kwon and few others, Jaye Kwon was actually saying that proof of work is unsustainable and it's bad for environment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I got from his speeches.
Yeah.
But let me finish
he's
because
also a closet Bitcoin maxi. Like,
sorry.
It's a duality.
So he's also Bitcoin maxi, you said?
Yeah, well, and anybody in Cosmos can step in and correct me if I'm wrong. I believe both Jay and Ethan feel that Bitcoin is at present the best money, and that Bitcoin mining is an environmental nightmare. And I guess that second piece that I disagree with the two of them on, I think that, I know for a fact that when we installed Bitcoin miners at natural gas fired power plants in New York State for drone energy, that actually increased the operational efficiency of that plant and reduced emissions because it wasn't turning on and off all the time.
I want to add because I was thinking of it, and I don't think the Bitcoin is a problem because when I look at the energy consumption, what drives the energy consumption is simply the progress of the people. So even though if you have the so I'm from Poland, right? And when you look at the energy consumption, let's say the 90s compared to now, it's drastic. The reason for this, everyone drive a car. We use more computers. So it's not necessarily the product, but it's simply humans and progress of wealth that creates the higher energy consumptions. And despite, let's say, the efforts through the electric car company saying it's gonna solve the problem, I actually think it's completely opposite because whether electric industries, cars, the space exploration, all of that, so electric cars are called sustainable, it actually drives the consumption higher into energy. So demand of the energy is higher. So it's quite foolish to call the Bitcoin, being environmentally unfriendly, because the same way we can simply say humans are very bad and progress is bad, and with this we should not create anything because that will not consume energy at all. That's my take. But what I want to progress, so let's say we have this problem, we probably will be consuming way more energy in 50 years. I think it will be way more than now, but the question is, can we find the solution, let's say via blockchain? I don't know, that we can create it more sustainable. I don't know if you are the right person.
Bitcoin is where that's going to happen. That was always my theory as somebody entering the scaled mining business. So we built these containers, right? That basically stuffed full of miners, and we also built the software control systems for them. And my theory was, and is, that if Bitcoin continues at its current pace, it will necessitate research and development of mass scale, affordable, cheap, clean energy. Therefore, the demand, the consumption is a virtue. It's a good thing. And guess what? Semiconductor manufacturing. All right, there's all this stuff going on in the news right now about Taiwan and oh my God, we're going to lose the global semiconductor industry because China may attack Taiwan. And guess what? That's actually true. And it should be scary as hell. And guess what? Who's making Bitcoin miners? Where are they being made? Well, guess what? Okay, one, the Chinese are making Bitcoin miners. And two, the demand is so high that Bitcoin miners will likely be made in North America pretty soon. This is a big deal. And yeah, the American semiconductor fabrication equipment, it's not as good. What's in Taiwan? Use a larger, the size of the little wires, we measure those in nanometers. In Taiwan, 5 nanometer semiconductors are being produced, and TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, is, in my opinion, probably the most undervalued organization on the planet because they build modern society.
It's sorry, like we at Semi, I want to say, while the economy of whole world tanked last year, the fastest growing economy in the world was actually Taiwan. I think they grew over 7%, which was how there was everything was locked. It's semis, right? Like,
yep.
And but what you actually said, I want to stop it because it was so good. Because you said that eventually it will lead to production of the miners if they in the United States. So what you basically said, the problem creates the solution, and it's when it gets really bad. So let's say if China attacks Taiwan, we will be fucked, but that will create fast solution. That would be like very quick, and we make in our own semis. And I think maybe the same with the environment. At the time when we will be completely unlivable, when we will be in the planet Earth, that will, I don't think now, like I don't think now everyone think is the issue, even like everyone say, hey, it's the issue. But I think once the planet Earth become unlivable, the solution will be very fast. Like, because I feel like the massive stressor, like everyone thinks it will be end of the world. My idea is we will actually invent so much then. And maybe
the energy. So here's the thing, though. I think that we may skip the going to absolute shit step. So, like, you describe a period of time in which, it's hard to live on Earth. Maybe it's like, I don't know how old you are, but if you played SimCity 2000, there was this video clip where like everybody's walking outside with oxygen inhalers, where it looks like that. We may skip that, and if we do, I think it'll be partially because of the energy demand created by Bitcoin, because there's only one thing that just sucks up electricity and then craps out money, and that's Bitcoin. It is a direct one-to-one conversion once you have the infrastructure in place. And it does not, so like us people, right? We turn the lights off, we turn the lights on, we turn the air conditioner off, turn the air conditioner on. The demand is variable on energy, any energy grid. Also, if you look at demand for fossil fuels, changes throughout the year, as it should, right? It's warmer or hotter outside. You're going to burn different gasoline blends and stuff like that. And this is where Bitcoin gets really weird to me, okay? Because we can talk about it as software, and I can talk about the author's hand, but my opinion, I guess it goes a little bit further. I don't see Bitcoin energy demand as a problem. I see it as a scope for creating solutions. And also, like, to anybody on this call who's like trying to figure out, okay, how do I maximize my crypto portfolio and, like, do well in all of this? Well, most of them that aren't shit are going to do amazing. Okay. So yes, I do think that the vast majority of Cosmos ecosystem projects are going to do amazing. Ethereum, I think it's going to do amazing. Bitcoin, probably going to do amazing. Avalanche, not shit, probably going to do amazing. If there's hard research and development behind it, and it's actually secure, Polkadot, probably going to do amazing. And guess what? Like, I don't like the network topology of Polkadot or Polkadot's economy. It doesn't matter. The engineering is really good. There are novel ideas being pursued. And, you know, my own opinion on this comes down to a matter of like style and taste, right? And I think that that network, Polkadot itself, Kusama, gonna do great. So when you're thinking about all this stuff, you know, what you're really probably looking for is novelty in terms of the technology, and then how pro-social is it? Also, do you understand its place in society? It took me years to feel comfortable that I had a decent grip on like what Bitcoin is, and it's because the scope is so wide. But please keep in mind that like, even though I've done all these Bitcoin related things, Cosmos related things, worked on Steam and now Blurt, like I'm still very much a student of this stuff. And you can progress quite far in terms of developing the technology or writing the code, and then maybe not appreciate the economic side of it or the political side of it, or realize that like each ecosystem is going to have its own politics, and that like if we look at Cosmos, each chain has its own politics and they can vary wildly. I mean, okay, I want to cite, I would like to throw out like a group of oddballs here. Regen Networks, the current maintainers of the Cosmos SDK, are like they're just gambling on optimism, right? And it's beautiful. Okay, they're clearly not lefties exactly or righties exactly. They're like, well, we would like to make a money that pays people more or less for social goods, and we're going to start with environmental matters. We're going to kind of go from there. That's brave. That's interesting. That's definitely not harmful. It could end up being too optimistic, but like the thing is, we've built out this stack of tooling. Now people can do crazy stuff like that, and that's wonderful.
It's funny you mentioned Regen Network, like, because it's like I'm trying to look at this and I'm like, I don't know how this project can succeed, because environment, agriculture, blockchain, I'm like, that's so risky to me. Like, if you succeed with this, bless you, but you know, like it's so, the concept of it is like, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it.
I've had a bunch of talks with Greg, CEO there,
Mhm.
all right? And if I had not had those talks, I wouldn't really understand that the vision isn't crazy, and it sounded crazy on the surface, and I still consider it like very high risk.
Mhm.
But if we're being realistic, Cosmos Atom is high risk. We're being realistic. Bitcoin is high risk. If we're being realistic, essentially anything other than gold, which you may wish to consider purchasing, is high risk, and it's crazy that people are ripping on the gold bugs because they have a very good point.
Yeah, that's very good what you said, because I even heard people calling like some coins, some crypto coins, blue chips. I mean, there is no blue chips. Like, there is literally
absolutely. That's completely
single
correct. We
blue
have not
chip,
gotten
you
to
know.
that stage.
It's like
there are
Bitcoin.
companies market
It
cap bigger
existed
than Bitcoin.
12 years. It's not a blue chip.
That's right.
It's high risk speculation asset, whatever you want to call it, like software technology. I want to get some questions, because someone was saying IBC relays are terrible and that 2 transactions failed today.
All right, so check it out. It is a high failure rate, good sir. You're speaking to, on any given day, the world's largest or second largest relayer. And I assure you that the failure rate is as high as, actually, I don't know. Like recently, the failure rate's gotten a lot better. Okay, a lot better, because a lot of people from a lot of organizations, including Notional, have focused on quality of service and making sure that the packets get through. And I want you to think about IBC as a networking protocol, which means that failure, like, it must be failure tolerant. Some packets won't reach their destination. That's okay. Networking protocols, computer networking protocols, right? Deal with failure as part of their operation. And to the questions asker, I would say that, like, we haven't even gotten started. Like, relaying is very challenging. It's like the software Olympics right now, except it's not just the software Olympics, it's also the hardware Olympics. Because when I run archive nodes to do relaying, it uses so much bandwidth that I have to actually think about, like, okay, how many PCIe lanes are going from this disk to the CPU? Will I have enough IO bandwidth for that? And I know for a fact, am contributing to, am seeing others build efficiency, efficiency improvements at every single layer of that stack. And
yeah, I would say at least it's not painful because the transaction is cheap. So
yeah,
not really.
Well, it can be painful. I mean, the most painful thing going on in IBC right now, in my opinion, is that it is possible to kind of send packets to nowhere. Quite regrettable, but I assure you it is possible. If you traverse a channel that is not commonly used, where the clients are not routinely being updated, and their clients are updated at the time of every transaction, if you use one of those channels, you may very well experience stuck money. I know people who have experienced that and are currently experiencing it, and they're not happy about it, and they shouldn't be happy about it. But I guess the key consideration here is that if you view IBC as a monetary protocol, you would be wrong. IBC is a networking protocol, and relayers are just routers. We're just helping things get from point A to point B. And I think the next generation of Cosmos chains are going to really show this, because at present, it's starting with sort of the atomic unit of cryptocurrency, and that, of course, is the token, the value carrier, what have you. But if you look at the construction of the packet, man, it's TCP/IP all the way down. It's beautiful. It's so great. In fact, I would say that, like, the thing I'm most pleased with in Cosmos is the design, execution, and construction of the IBC protocol, that it puts any chain in Cosmos to shame. It's incredible. And
sorry, like, as if you say that, who did contribute most to the code of the Cosmos? Because I heard opinion that it's pretty. I know nothing about this, but someone said it's pretty. And I think that's nice thing to say about it, So I wonder.
So it is pretty. All right. It's not possible for me to answer that question. I want to walk through why.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Fine.
So there's not an individual, although Christopher Goes, I think, deserves a ton of credit. I think, to the best of my knowledge, that the economic design for IBC came from Jaye Kwon. I used a very, very early demo of it as far back as 2017, which I think was built by Jay and Ethan themselves. It was called 2 Chains. It was a little bash script that called up Tendermint and all this other stuff. And then you could see the idea for the pattern, right? That's not to say that it was by any means fully baked. As you can see, it took a number more years to fully bake it. But it was there far back as 2017. So who contributed most to IBC? Nah, bunch of nerds. whole bunch of nerds doing nerd stuff on hardcore mode for years. That's how IBC happened. Yeah, Jay contributed. Yeah, Christopher Goes contributed. Yeah, Jack Zamplin contributed. Yeah, Zaki contributed. Yeah, Ethan contributed. But like it goes way beyond that. Consider where IBC would be had there not been like the decision to execute Osmosis by Sonny and Dev and the Kepler Wallet team, and really the whole larger community, because the channels didn't exist when Osmosis was created. You know, that those channels had to be created and they had to be maintained by all kinds of different chains. And then if you want to step back and you want, oh, hey, let's give some more credit. Okay, Akash did pretty much some of the very first IBC demos and contributed to relayer development. And so it's a lot of nerds doing nerd stuff for a long time without, you know, look, I think that it's pretty fair to say, despite any disagreements in the ecosystem, that like everyone had kind of, there is an underlying vibe or thought in Cosmos, and that's what drove a hell of a lot of people to pursue this really vigorously for years without clear expectation of return. And I do believe that that's IBC and its economics driving that. I think I must run. So
Yeah.
I really want to thank you though. Like, this has been amazing.
It was a very deep conversation. That's why I do it this way, because I just like to play it live, whatever, and I don't like to schedule it. You know, like it's like I want to let people speak what they want to speak. I actually also need to run, but it was long. It was cool, and I really appreciate you up here. Can you give me quickly before you run?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
5 most interesting projects in the Cosmos ecosystem, but according to you subjectively. So, like, you know, or 3. You can narrow it. Just something.
Okay, Right now, really, my number one is Osmosis, and it's because of the code velocity. The next is the Cosmos SDK itself. I'm aiming to start contributing to it, but sort of putting like a Notional Labs twist on it, which basically is we're gonna treat the SDK as released by the SDK maintenance group as like a solid core. We're gonna extend it with Starport. Oh hell! Oh my God! I didn't mention Starport. Screw the chains.
I know you were contributing to Starport.
Yeah. So like, I mean, look, Starport is going to be one of the key things in driving the creation of thousands to millions of blockchains, and was very, very important. Get rid of SPM, please. That was just a little, yeah. They'll understand should they see this. The SPM is a little, the dependency that must go. It makes it a little tougher to use and to maintain chains built with Starport over time. But like, despite SPM, which is really a tiny complaint, Starport unlocks huge value. Oh hell, I do believe they're starting a Starport network blockchain. That could be one to watch. Yep.
And I hope there will be airdrop.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that like Starport fits really well with airdrop tooling, and just so you know, I'm no longer a part of Tendermint, and so I don't really have like any insight into like, you know, specific airdrop plans with Starport. And you know, at this point, you could say that my role vis-a-vis Starport is like enthusiastic user and contributor. It's an amazing piece of software that makes using other amazing pieces of software much easier. if it weren't for Starport, then I think the starting point for any blockchain in the ecosystem would still be, okay, let's fork the Cosmos hub, which isn't actually all that bad. It's in fact a pretty good template, but that's not ideal.
That's it. That's their projects.
Well, okay, Osmosis. Look out for that Starport network, and like look at Starport generally. And if you're a programmer, contribute to Starport. Okay, and then
I'm actually not so familiar with Starport, but I will pay more attention to it.
It's a tool for building blockchains, and then of course there's Dig, which doesn't exist yet, and it's a project that we're developing at Notional Labs for a client, and it's very exciting. Dig is really very interesting because it occurred as conversation with a longtime crypto participant who, like, we were chatting, and I was telling him the story I told you about blockchain real estate. He was like, "So how do you fix that? How do you solve that?" And it went on for 6 hours, and we're going to give it a shot with Dig. So there's that. Huge fan of the Akash network. My suspicion with Regen, okay, I believe they're going to find a weird X factor because their project is just that weird. Okay, I don't know what that is, and I couldn't tell you why this is my opinion. I just, nobody really tries anything that strange. It gives me a lot of faith in it, if that makes sense. Like, I know that's sort of
I guess
roundabout, but that is my opinion.
Yeah, it's sometimes something that's supposed to fail succeed the most. I think that's
yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'm not going to hold you anymore. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy delicious Vietnamese cuisine if you're gonna go into eat. I love it as well. We in Hong Kong, I was able to experience a lot of Vietnamese dishes. So thank you for your time. If you ever want to come again, we do it again. We discuss more, maybe about the Dig, which I don't know anything about. So yeah, I appreciate it. And if you want to add something later to the video, some resources, just send me over.
One thing I do have to do, because I had a little cussing fit, is I have to link to that like proposed U.S. legislation. I want people to know
that's what I
I'm
remember,
because
YouTube, you were saying.
not just hearing me use the word fuck. I want people to know why. So I'll link to that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thanks.